Today, we're taking a hard look at two major examples of aggressive negotiation in action: Donald Trump's hit back 10 times harder philosophy and Purdue Pharmaceuticals' refusal to settle opioid claims. These approaches demonstrate how taking a hardline stance can lead to dominance or disaster. So, is it better to play nice, or does business favor the ruthless? Let's get into it. Hey, lady bosses, are you working even after putting the kids to bed but still not getting results?
Are you tired of spending money on ads that aren't getting engagement?
Do you feel burdened that you aren't fulfilling your purpose in life because you are so consumed with work?
I'm your host, Brooke Boltz. I'm an attorney and founder of Boltz Legal. I started my business and in 1 year was bringing in 7 figures and am now bringing in multi-7 figures.
And I'm your co-host, Rachel Boltz, owner of Boltz Media. I've helped many businesses build their online presence and increase their revenue through digital marketing.
Want to hear how we did it?
We are here to help you achieve your goals personally, professionally, and spiritually.
So kick off your high heels, sit back, and let's ignite that passion.
We're Miss Biz, where we're putting the miss in biz.
Let's get biz done. Few figures in modern business and politics embody aggressive negotiation like Donald Trump. Throughout his career, Trump has been known for his "if you come after me, I come after you 10 times harder" philosophy. Whether in real estate, business deals, or politics, Trump has often framed negotiation as a zero-sum game. You either dominate or you get dominated.
So some key examples of Trump's approach are starting with real estate deals. Trump was notorious for making extreme opening offers, only to walk away if the terms weren't in his favor. He'd often publicly criticize partners or competitors who opposed him.
Also, his branding and lawsuits. He was very aggressive and pursued lawsuits against those who challenged his brand or his business, ensuring a public perception that he would not back down.
So the next question is, does this really work? And there's definitely pros and cons to this approach. Some of the pros are that this tactic can be effective in high-stakes negotiations where showing weakness invites exploitation. It establishes power and can force the other party into submission.
And you cannot dispute that this tactic works. I mean, Donald Trump is now the president of the United States, and which is the most powerful position in the world. And so he got there in large part because of his very strong stance and personality. And this has really been something I've been struggling with personally, because in the legal field as well, you have those lawyers who fight every fight. And it's also something that a lot of prospective clients want. They don't want a lawyer who's going to not be taken seriously. They want a lawyer who's going to be aggressive and get things done. And it's kind of an internal struggle that I go through, because I certainly want to be a zealous advocate for my client and to be strategic and aggressive, but at the same time, I have chosen my battles, and I have not been known to be the lawyer who fights over every small detail. So for example, if an opposing counsel asks me, hey, is it okay that we push back the depot by 10 minutes? I'm going to say, yeah, that's fine. Whereas some lawyers would say, no, if we don't start on time, I'm taking a non-appearance. I'll be filing sanctions. Like, they will go and really make a big deal over that request for a 10-minute delay of the deposition. So, this is something that I struggle with a lot is, should I be taking on the Donald Trump approach more because maybe that is what clients want, or is the saying you catch more bees with honey effective in the legal and marketing world as well?
Yeah, well, I think there's definitely, while there are pros, there are definitely a lot of cons that come with being very aggressive. And one of them is it burns bridges. It can create long-term enemies, and it can lead to retaliation that hurts both sides. And some deals simply fall apart because the other parties refuse to budge. I also think that not only is it going to hurt the relationship with the person, potentially hurt the relationship with the person that you have the conflict with, or you're not seeing eye to eye, but I also think that, especially in terms of like Donald Trump, that kind of information spreads. If somebody has a negative interaction with you, they're going to tell other people about it, and it's going to spread and give you a bad name.
Maybe. It may give you the name of being a tough as nails lawyer that nobody wants to mess with.
That's true.
So it's like, what is the reputation that I want to have?
Yeah, but even in your situation, you're going to be likely to get the claim settled more quickly, I would believe, if you did make an accommodation, or, if you were willing to, if they were running late and you made that effort to allow them. I would think that they would be more willing to work with you because you were willing to work with them.
Yes, I think so. I think both work in certain circumstances. There, those lawyers who fight every fight over every little thing, they get claims settled because the opposing side just wants to be done with it.
They don't want to deal with it, yeah.
They don't want to deal with it. And so that, it works too. It's just a matter of what, for me, I can't have the high stress and cortisol levels in my life to be fighting over 10 minutes.
Yes.
I personally, after 16 years as a lawyer, cannot fight every battle. And there have been times, and it's been part of a maturing process, there have been times, especially when I first started becoming a plaintiff's lawyer. I've been a defense lawyer for 9 years, and I switched sides. And when I became a plaintiff's lawyer, I was very aggressive on every little thing. So much so that I hurt relationships because I would not give on certain things, and I went really aggressive on my cases. And after some time, and I hurt some relationships from doing that, I backed down a little bit and was like, let me find that right balance where the reputation that I want to have is I fight the fights that need to be fought well and aggressively, but not unnecessary fights. And that's the balance I've tried to strike. But I still struggle with all the time, should I be more aggressive than I am? I still struggle with that.
Well, I think that you can still show kindness and work with people on things that need to be resolved and still be aggressive. I really do, because when you get fired up, boy, Brooke Bolts gets fired up, I will tell you. So just because she's willing to work with an opposing counsel or try to give them the benefit of the doubt or whatever the case may be, like, she still fights very hard for her clients. And don't make her mad either.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And that is very nice to hear. But it's still something that I think about and wonder about. And but as long as I'm still getting good results for my clients, at the end of the day, that's what matters the most. And if I'm getting good results and my clients are happy, then I figure what I'm doing must be working.
Right. And they're going to leave a review and tell their friends.
So the other example of this really hardline stance is the Purdue Pharmaceutical negotiation and business strategy that they employed when they were handling the OxyContin lawsuits. So there's I've been in a documentary kick lately. So I watched a documentary on Donald Trump, and that's where I learned how just really aggressive he was in his business negotiations and business dealings. And then I watched the documentary on Purdue Pharmaceuticals, which was talking about the history of OxyContin. And just to give you a little bit of background, if you haven't seen the documentary, OxyContin is an opioid, which is essentially a version of heroin, and it was much more potent than Vicodin, the prior painkiller that was used the most in the medical setting. And so they came out with OxyContin and started promoting it with false statements. One of the things that they would tell doctors was that it's only in 1% of cases does it become addictive.
That's hilarious.
Well, we know that now it's hilarious. Yeah. But at the time, doctors bought into it. Oh, Vicodin had addictive capabilities. So if you're giving me an opioid, it didn't make sense because it's the same chemicals put together in a medication, just in a higher potency. So it didn't make sense that it wouldn't be addictive. Mm-hmm. But there's also the people who believe what they're told and figure, well, if the FDA approved it and this is what they're saying, then maybe it's true. And so they started prescribing it, and then their sales reps for the pharmaceutical company were incentivized to push the doctors to prescribe the higher dosages because they made higher profit margins and better commissions to do that. And so their sales reps started really pushing these doctors to prescribe high dosages, and that's when we started to see the deaths occurring. And so, of course, OxyContin starts getting sued. And in turn, there were some advisors to Purdue that said, hey, let's settle these things, sweep them under the rug, keep our good name, keep our brand growing. But instead, the higher ups within Purdue said, no settlement strategy. We're not offering not a penny to people who had death cases related to.
Jeez.
And they would say that it was an abuse of the medication. They can't control how people use it, which in part is true. There were people sniffing and definitely overusing and abusing, but where their culpability lied was in the fact that they were promoting this as something that was not addictive. Mm-hmm. Less than 1% of people get addicted. They had false advertising that was leading to doctors prescribing this, believing this stuff, and patients believing it. Because some patients would say, I don't want anything that I'm going to get addicted to.
Right.
But when they heard...
here's some OxyContin for you.
Right. So when they heard the ads that it's not addictive, their guard would come down and they would take the medication that they otherwise would have turned away. And then, what do you know? They get addicted and their life is ruined, and then they die. So when Purdue started getting sued, they had a no settlement stance. They would not offer a penny. And so, that kind of reminded me of that same aggressive tactic. Do you settle, or do you take the I'm not going to pay a penny standpoint? And here was some of the key points of Purdue's approach. In addition to being the host of the Miss Biz podcast, I also own and operate a law firm in Florida called Bolts Legal. I wanted to make sure my listeners knew that you are invited to reach out to me with any legal issues you may have. I practice in the area of personal injury, home insurance disputes, and medical revenue recovery. However, whatever legal issue you may have, please always feel free to reach out. If I can't help you personally, I'll help you find someone who can. I'm licensed in the states of Florida and Texas, but even out of state, I have connections and know people in those places, and I'm happy to help guide you in any way I can. The best way to reach me is through the contact page on my website, boltzlegal.com. That's BOLTZ legal.com, and simply fill out the contact form, which comes directly to me and my email. I look forward to connecting with you, and thank you so much for listening to Miss Biz.
Yes, so Purdue's aggressive sales tactics pushed OxyContin as a non-addictive painkiller despite evidence to the contrary. And as lawsuits emerged, they refused to negotiate or settle early claims, instead opting to drag cases through lengthy litigation. And this strategy delayed legal accountability, and it allowed Purdue to continue profiting from the sales. And ultimately, public pressure, state lawsuits, and overwhelming legal fees forced Purdue to declare bankruptcy in 2020 with a controversial $4 billion settlement.
So in the documentary, $4 billion obviously sounds like a huge settlement, and it was, but the way it was portrayed in the documentary was kind of like that amount of money to them, $4 billion, was not that much, that they could really pay it just out of the interest that they'd been gaining on their other profits, and it wasn't going to hurt them as much as it may seem. So to Purdue, $4 billion is like what maybe $4,000 would be to us, or maybe $40,000. It's a hard hit, but it's not so hard that it's going to put us out of business or, destroy us. So in the end, it really feels like even though they had some consequences, was it still the right strategy to take? Because let's look at the alternative. Let's say they had started settling the cases early and upfront. Maybe they end up paying more than $4 billion across all those different lawsuits, because maybe the strategy that they took deterred lawyers from filing suits because they knew Purdue's not going to pay, and so they got sued less than they otherwise would have, and maybe they ended up saving money. $4 billion was less than they would have paid had they settled early. We don't know, but it's just something that is really interesting to me to think about, is these very aggressive tactics. It's just my natural inclination is to always try to do right by people and try to leave them with a positive impression, whether they're opposing me or they're my client or my friend or whoever they are. I always want them to see me in a favorable light, even if we're at odds in a case. But I cannot ignore the success that people have when they take these very aggressive stances. It is there. And it's something that I struggle with. So Purdue obviously had short-term success. It allowed them to maximize profits and delayed their accountability for years. But some would say it backfired, because Purdue eventually lost control of his company and faced reputational ruin. I mean, OxyContin now.
Yeah, they have a pretty bad name in the industry, but I mean, I think they're still prescribing it to people. People are still taking it.
Well, now it's oxycodone.
Oh yeah. Well,
I don't know if OxyContin's still out there. I'm not sure. I'm not up on this. My other sister-in-law is a pharmacist. She would know, but I don't know if OxyContin's still out there, or if they kind of rebranded and changed their formula a little bit with oxycodone. But the reputation of OxyContin itself was really hurt, and so they, at a minimum, would have to rebrand, rename, change the formula, do some things, and then come back. to regain any type of credibility and kind of mask the fact that they're the same people
Yeah.
under a new brand.
True. So the big question is, which kind of goes hand in hand with what you were just talking about, is it better to play hardball or build bridges? So the first thing to consider when aggressive tactics work, like we said earlier, high stakes situations, competitive environments where showing weakness can be exploited, or when negotiating with parties who respect strength and decisiveness. Also, when short-term dominance is more important than long-term relationships, that's when these aggressive tactics work.
Yeah. So just to kind of summarize those things, if it's a one-time transaction and you're never going to deal with this person again, then that short-term dominance can be effective because you're not going to have a long-lasting relationship. And so you need to get the long end of the stick, so to speak, in this one transaction. So that is a time that you can employ these aggressive tactics without having a lot of backlash. Also, sometimes the person on the other side is a Donald Trump personality, and you got to match that energy.
That's true.
And I've had that time and time again. When I'm dealing with someone who on the other side who is that way, well then
you got to puff out your chest too.
yes, you gotta rise up and match that energy, because otherwise they will just walk all over you, and you cannot allow that. So everybody needs to have this tool in their back pocket for when you're dealing with someone else who is this way, because you got to be able to rise to their level of energy or aggressiveness, or else you're gonna lose out. And then when you have competitive environments where showing any weakness could be used against you, then that's another time to take an aggressive approach. But there's also occasions when diplomacy is your better choice. And what are some of those circumstances?
Well, when businesses rely on partnerships or repeat customers, that's when diplomacy is going to be more effective. Or when brand reputation or goodwill are crucial for long-term success, that's another situation. Also, when negotiation requires creative solutions rather than brute force, that's when you're going to want to be more diplomatic.
So basically, when it comes to marketing,
yes,
and networking, diplomacy is going to be more effective.
Yeah, because you thrive on relationships.
Yeah.
So,
but at the same time, Donald Trump's brand built around this really strong, you're fired personality was super popular.
yeah, but the relationships that he was trying to attract were other men like him. Really, when you look at all the parties that he used to go to, people that he used to hang out with, they're all like very well off, successful, kind of got that same personality a little bit. Maybe not to the degree, but they're very dominant personality.
So that's a good point, looking at your audience and what is appealing to your audience. So for him, if his brand was looking to appeal to people who want that strong, no-nonsense personality, then he did a fantastic job of doing that. But if you're selling makeup, then that's not your target audience, and you've got to adopt a different approach.
Yeah, you can't be chucking that eyeliner at people.
Yeah. So yeah, for long-term, anytime you have a long-term business relationship or repeat referrals coming from another source, you're gonna want to adopt some cooperation.
Absolutely. So some real examples of a different approach are companies like, is it Patagonia?
Yes.
Patagonia, they are a clothing brand, and also Costco. They've built massive brands by emphasizing ethical businesses, social responsibility, and customer trust. Rather than fighting their opponents aggressively, they use diplomacy and brand loyalty to create long-term success.
So I thought this was important to look at some examples of the opposite tactic so that you can really look at the pros and cons of the different approaches and figure out which one you align the most with, and possibly how you can use them both in their own unique circumstances. So Patagonia had a campaign that was called "Don't Buy This Jacket."
It's so weird for a clothing store to tell you not to buy this jacket. It's almost like reverse psychology. Like when you like push people away and tell them like, I don't want that, then you want it more.
Yes. Or you take it away, like, we're only choosing a select number of people today, and then really you're choosing everybody, but you want
Yes.
them, that like scarcity tactic.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it kind of is brilliant because the trust that it instilled, I think, in the customer base was tremendous. Basically, it urged customers to consider their consumption habits. And this was unheard of in the traditional business strategy world. And instead of pushing for grow, 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 the company encouraged customers to buy less and repair their existing gear. So don't buy this jacket, fix the one you have. Now, presumably, they'd be taking their jacket to Patagonia to fix it. So Patagonia would still be getting some business from that, but not nearly what they would if they just bought a new jacket. So I personally think that it's a really smart tactic because it really would build trust. It reminds me of roofers, because I deal with roofers in my line of work, and there are some roofers who only want to replace a roof. Don't call me unless it's a replacement, but others will do the repair on the roof. They'll do a patch. And I think sometimes the ones who are willing to do the patch can gain the trust of that homeowner because they didn't go for the most expensive sale. And eventually that roof's going to need to be replaced.
Right.
And hopefully that person will go back to the person who they built trust with. But it kind of is a similar example with the don't buy this jacket, that sometimes you don't need a whole new car. You can fix the one you have. Mm-hmm. And I think it was a really smart tactic.
I wonder if that was back in the day when like having holes in your jacket was okay. Like you could get away with it for a little bit. Like what was that, like the 80s, 90s?
The 80s.
Something like
I still have holes in my jeans. I like it. But the jacket is a different thing because I don't want to be cold.
Very true. Finding guests for a podcast can be difficult sometimes, so Brooke and I wanted to let you guys know that we are available to appear on your podcast.
We also enjoy speaking at events, so if you have an event coming up, these jingles can go on the road.
Simply go to missbiz.com/contact and in the subject line, write podcast guest or event speaker, and we'll reach out to you to further coordinate. Very true.
So the other thing that Patagonia did was it worked with suppliers and vendors rather than strong-arming them into lower costs. And we hear of these type of stories all the time where big box companies have so much leverage over the suppliers and vendors that they can really push them to give really low costs. And Patagonia just didn't do that. They worked with the suppliers to try to come up with fair pricing for their products. They also had an ironclad guarantee, which offered repairs and returns rather than forcing unnecessary repurchases, and that again created trust and loyalty rather than quick sales.
They also pledged 1% of their sales to environmental causes, which is something that not a lot of companies did, especially back in that time.
You know, that reminds me that was something I had wanted to talk about in the Belle Gibson episode. If you listen to one of our episodes back a couple weeks ago, we talked about Belle Gibson, who is the fraudster who created an app on the premise that she had cured herself of cancer, and turned out to be a lie, that she never had cancer. But one of the things that she did was say that she was fundraising for these charities. She never actually gave the money to the charities, apparently, but she claimed to. And I think that was another cause of her rise to success, was her charitable, the perception she had of being contributing to these charitable causes. So Patagonia pledging 1% of their sales to environmental causes would definitely appeal to a certain demographic, a lot of the demographic in their target market.
Right, and rather than aggressively protecting their patents or intellectual property, they have open sourced some of their technology to help other businesses become more sustainable. That, to me, is a pretty big deal, because not a lot of business owners like to tell all their tips and secrets and share their technology, especially. But here they were helping other businesses, and so that earned them a really good name.
Kind of reminds me of a friend, Michelle Ray, who's a successful realtor. And I asked her one time, are you okay with, I did some kind of interview of her, and I said, are you okay with sharing your secrets in the real estate world? And she goes, yeah, I'll share it all, because nobody's going to do it. Because she knew the things she did were hard work, and she would tell everybody everything she did, because she knew that very few people, if any, would actually do the things that led to her success. So I mean, that is some real confidence in allowing, not protecting your designs with patents, which allows people to steal your ideas. I mean, that's a big one.
So Patagonia, they have seen consistent financial growth, proving that having an ethical business doesn't mean sacrificing profits. Their customers feel connected to the brand's mission, which leads to long-term retention and word-of-mouth marketing.
And even as we're talking about Patagonia, it's a lot easier to keep a smile on my face talking about these just like feel-good tactics that they do. And I can imagine the people at Patagonia probably sleep really well at night, knowing that they've created a business that is successful, but also based upon ethical practices. So, you know, is the hard-nosed tactic successful? Yes. But I think it's important to think also, are you going to feel good about yourself?
Are you going to have a stroke in the next 20 years?
Yes, or a heart attack. And that's a very real thing that comes from high pressure situations on an ongoing basis. So another example of a business that is contrary to those high aggressive businesses we talked about would be Costco. Instead of maximizing markups, Costco follows a strict low margin policy. It never marks its products up more than 14%.
That's outstanding.
Well, outstanding as a consumer, not outstanding as a business owner necessarily.
Right. They have to focus on like just mass sales, high volume.
Yeah, I mean, 14%, that is very low.
Yeah.
But they make up for it with their customer memberships. So their low margin policy ensures that customers always get the best possible deal without gimmicky sales tactics.
Yeah. So unlike retailers who aggressively negotiate prices down with suppliers, Costco focuses on long-term partnerships, helping vendors succeed rather than squeezing them for short-term gains. They're also one of the highest paying retailers, offering employees fair wages, great benefits, and opportunities for growth. Whereas competitors like Walmart, they've been criticizing for underpaying workers and union busting. Costco, they have built a loyal and motivated workforce, resulting in better customer service and lower employee turnover. So that just goes to show you, when you do things the right way, you're gonna net well. I think so. If you treat people the right way, you pay your people good, you're going to have less turnover, which is going to cost you less in the long run.
Maybe. I still question whether you can be more profitable by employing some unethical tactics. I think sometimes you can. I think a lot of times you can. So there may be a sacrifice in profitability. Walmart probably is more successful on a financial basis than
Right.
Costco.
But they also offer more than just groceries.
Costco does too.
Oh, do they?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of Sam's. Sam's does for sure. Costco, I don't know. We don't have one near me, so I haven't been to a Costco in a while. But I think they do. I think they order or they offer a lot of the same things. But you know, at the end of the day, again, it's what makes you sleep better at night. Is it having the maximum possible profits, or is it having happy employees, loyal customers, and still being profitable? There may be some earnings lost by taking a more ethical approach. But for me personally, I'm willing to take that loss because of the other benefits that come with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot less headaches when you're paying people correctly. People like their jobs, customers are happy. I could never imagine being a Walmart manager. God bless you if you are. That would be very difficult.
Well, just think about it. Costco, its profits seemingly, if they only have a 14% markup on their products, then it seems like most of their profits must come from the memberships. So people pay a membership fee every month to be able to shop at Costco. And let me ask you, if you had to pay a membership fee to go to Walmart, would you do it?
No.
Not even a question. Why? Because it just doesn't have that brand loyalty. The customers of Costco enjoy it enough, are loyal enough that they will pay even when they may not use it, even when they may not be going to Costco. So that's guaranteed revenue. It's repeat revenue. Even if people aren't coming in, you're still making those membership fees. So you can plan ahead and know, I have this many memberships, and so I'm going to make this much month after month, and then you can keep, growing from there. So it's a different strategy, but it clearly creates loyalty because people pay just to be a member.
Mm-hmm. That's how gyms make a majority of their money too. I forget the exact statistic, but I think it's somewhere like only 20% of gym membership members actually go to the gym. So the gym is able to charge $20 a month or however much a month because they're banking on all of the other people
who don't come.
Yeah.
And then they make it so hard to cancel.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah. You got to call 18 numbers and then
yes. My
sign
husband
this form.
hasn't used his membership in I don't know how many years, and I keep saying we need to cancel this thing, so I just try to go twice as much to make up for him not going, but he won't cancel it. He does not want to cancel it because he still plans to go back. And so we've been paying for who knows how long. But anyways, The other way that Costco saves money is it doesn't really advertise. It's just word of mouth referrals or word of mouth organic growth. And that's people talking about, did you see this great deal that I got at Costco? Or did you look at what Publix is charging versus what Costco is charging? That type of talking is what has caused Costco to grow and have such a loyal base.
Yeah, their stock price and profitability continues to grow, proving that a low margin ethical business model can be just as competitive as aggressive strategies.
Yeah, so those are a couple of examples that you can consider. You've got the real aggressive approach and then you've got the less aggressive approach. Both are successful. And so which is the option that fits you better? Which is the option that is going to make you feel the best about yourself and your reputation? And maybe are there situations in which you could employ both tactics? At the end of the day, the best negotiation strategy depends on your industry, your goals, and your risk tolerance. Trump and Purdue show that aggressive tactics can work and do work, but they also come with risks. And on the other hand, the win more bees with honey approach might take longer, but it could lead to stronger, more sustainable success. It also could lead to less profit margins. But I don't know, what do you think? Do you prefer aggressive negotiation or a more diplomatic approach?
I think it's all about balance. I truly do. There's going to be situations where you need to be more aggressive, and there's going to be situations where you need to be more diplomatic. A lot of it just depends on what you do, who your customers are, what setting you're in. But I think a balanced approach can be effective.
So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, to let us know which approach you think is more successful or which one you've adopted with your business. If you'd join our Facebook group, it's a private group called Miss Biz Nation. It's a free group to join. We post questions like this weekly to the members there just to get their feedback and thoughts, and we'd love to hear from you about how you interpreted these case studies.
We appreciate you and are honored to be on this journey with you. We can't wait to help you, to encourage you, and show you how to grow personally, professionally, and spiritually.
If you found Miss Biz helpful, please leave a review and share with others.
You can follow us on social media at Miss Biz Podcast.
For legal questions or services, please visit boltslegal.com.
And for digital marketing needs, please visit boltsmedia.com. Let's get biz done.